Give me the scoop.
What's the scoop?
What's the scoop? Welcome into Scoop City. I'm the athletic senior NFL insider, Dianna Russini.
And I'm Chase Daniel. I played football in the NFL for 14 years.
Oh, a lot of football for you. And Brandon Aiyuk is still a San Francisco 49er, and my flight is probably still delayed. Chase, I finally made it back to New Jersey after flight after flight, and I just feel so bad for so many people. You see them in the airport, and everyone has their own stories of travel issues, but the storms have been so wild in the northeast area over the last few days that, it's just been a problem for so many people. So good to be able to get back on the ground back home. I made it for my son's 3rd birthday, but today I obviously was spending those days in Ohio with the Houston Texans. I actually even stopped by the Cleveland Browns practice, and Houston Texans head coach DeMeco Ryans is so impressive, Chase. He is building something big. I believe he is going to be the coach that's going to be the Houston Texans leader for a very long time. What do you think of him so far?
He's a baller. And I said this before. I don't know if it was to you in a text or maybe on the show or maybe last year, but I'm like all over the place. But an organization needs one person to change the trajectory of that organization for the next decade or so. Okay, so the Houston Texans go out to San Fran, get DeMeco Ryans. Okay, they have number 2 pick in the draft. They also get CJ Stroud. They have 2 people that are the face of that organization that seem to be in lockstep, that the trajectory of the Houston Texans, we weren't even talking about them last year, beginning of last year at all. And now it's like the belle of the ball. It'll be interesting to see how they handle these expectations coming up for this year.
And if you don't believe us, you can just listen to DeMeco Ryans. He joined Scoop City, and we dive into all of it. The development of CJ Stroud. We talk about the Stefon Diggs trade, and then we just talk about the role of a leader on a football team, because DeMeco Ryans is known around football as being one of the greatest leaders as a player at Alabama, with Houston, and now as the head coach. And then we gotta touch on Brandon Aiyuk. I feel like this story has become whack-a-mole. Every single hour there is a new development. So I want to empty my notebook for you, Chase, and just give you the latest. And perhaps maybe by the time we get to the show here and you're listening, things have changed, because that's how often this story is moving. It certainly is a moving target, but I want to inform you of everything that I know. And then finally, I was listening to my boys in the living room watching Paw Patrol, okay? And we all know, or at least those that watch Paw Patrol, know the main character. His name is Chase. And there's this segment they do called Chase is on the Case. And I was thinking, well, I've got a Chase in my life. So Chase, I'm going to have you pretty much figure out one of the biggest cases in the NFL and pretty much predict how you believe and see it playing out. So we'll get to that. But first, let's get to what I'm hearing around the league. Well, it seems the biggest story in the NFL right now is, where will Brandon Aiyuk wind up by week 1? We know he's still under contract with the San Francisco 49ers. He's been holding in over the last few weeks. He asked for a trade earlier this summer, and it just seems right now this thing is headed towards a trade. So Chase, I know you've been all over this story because you have tons of thoughts about where Brandon Aiyuk should go. So what do you want to know?
Well, the rumors have been flying. Every time I open Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, it'll always be known as Twitter, in my opinion. It's saying that he's going to New England. It's saying that he's staying in San Francisco. It's saying that he's going to Pittsburgh, and they're going to trade him. They're going to sign. What are you hearing about everything? What's the latest? Because let's just start there. What's the latest with Brandon Aiyuk?
So he currently is still a San Francisco 49er, and the 49ers front office are in communication with the Cleveland Browns and the Pittsburgh Steelers. A few days ago, there was another team involved, and that was the New England Patriots, but they have pulled out completely. They essentially had a contract in place for Aiyuk, giving him around $32 million a year.
Wow.
And with trade compensation that the San Francisco 49ers were okay with, but Aiyuk did not want to go play for New England, is what I was told. He does not believe the quarterback position is at the level that he wants it to be at right now, and he wants to be in a team that he believes can make a run in the playoffs. He doesn't see New England as being that type of team.
$32 million is a ton of money for him. Multiple executives we've talked to around the league believes he should be around 30. What is he asking for currently? Because I feel like the $32 million from New England's probably going to be the most he's going to get, correct?
I agree. In fact, when I was first told that New England had that type of money on the table, I jokingly was like to someone, sign him, like make it happen. Done.
Yes.
Done. Yep, I'm in, right? You're not getting more than that. New England was rolling out the cash to get him there, and he denied them. The San Francisco 49ers offered him $26 million in the May time. It was like April, May. They have not moved off that number.
What
It's
does
been
Brandon's
26.
camp think that he deserves? That 26 is low.
Correct. Well, depends on how you look at it, because I have spoken with other GMs in the league who think that Aiyuk should have taken that deal, that he should take 26 million.
26? Mm-hmm. Okay,
Despite
that's
the
just
fact-
GMs and front office people being ridiculous. That dude is worth way more than $26 million a year. I personally think he's a top 10 receiver. Turn on the film, watch his separation. He's a big guy that can go up, get contested catches. His releases are second to none. I mean, 26, in my opinion, is a bargain.
Well, it's a little bit of war of wills at this point, because you have the Niners, who aren't moving off the $26 million. You have Aiyuk, who believes he's worth more. As I've said, we've heard some GMs share that they think he's worth 30. Some think he's going to get more actually than 30, and others who think the 26 number is fine. So he seems to be falling more towards what the market should be paying him, which is that 30 million number, right? That seems to be the general consensus around the league. There's those few that think that maybe he would fall a little bit less. So now you have San Francisco sitting here really not making any moves on the financial side to keep him. Aiyuk wants to be there. He wants to play for San Francisco. He moved his family out there in the offseason. They've settled down.
He moved his family out there in the offseason when he knew he was going to need a new contract? Why?
I think he must have thought that this was going to be fine. And the part about this that is tough is you look back at the draft, or right before the draft, they were taking calls about possibly trading him then. I don't know why they didn't do it then, right? So Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk were both on the trade block before the draft. San Francisco was talking to several different teams, trying to see who would be willing to take them. They were not able to get the type of return that they were looking for, so they moved on. And then they went to the draft, and they still went with receiver.
Ricky Purcell, yeah.
Right? Ricky Purcell, who's currently dealing with a shoulder injury. Wow. Christian McCaffrey's out for the rest of training camp. Brandon Aiyuk isn't playing on the field right now. He's holding in. You have to look at the San Francisco 49ers right now and wonder what is the plan here. And you also have to wonder how Kyle Shanahan is feeling about his offense and what it would look like without Brandon Aiyuk, which I ask you. If you're Kyle, are you freaking out at the idea of not having Aiyuk on your team anymore?
I think you absolutely are freaking out a little bit not having Brandon Aiyuk on your team. One, because he's a leader. The dude is a bona fide leader. He is, make no mistake about it, he is their true number one receiver. It's not Deebo. Deebo's the gadget guy, which can get a lot of touches. It's not Jennings. It's not Kittle, which Kittle is great. It is, when Brock Purdy needs a play, it's Brandon Aiyuk. You can't trust a rookie, Ricky Purcell. Like, he's hurt, CMC's hurt. In my opinion, I would be perturbed if I was Kyle Shanahan that Brandon Aiyuk actually showed up is causing even more of a distraction when we're trying to get stuff done. I bet he wishes he would have just stayed away. But then again, Brandon Aiyuk's like, I'm not getting fined for this. I'm holding it. And so it's an interesting dynamic there. And it looks like they're playing the cat and mouse game. Who can get the most leverage? Who can't get the most leverage? I just can't help but wonder if this ends in like Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch just getting just ticked off and being like, okay, let's just get out of here. Let's move on with our life. But I can't see an offense that's even remotely the same as it was last year if they don't have Brandon Aiyuk.
So you say that maybe John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan go, we're done with this. We're just going to trade him. Remember, they can't just trade him because the team that he's trading him, that they would be trading him to, have to have a contract in place that Aiyuk would be down for. So it has to be the number that Aiyuk is looking for, which you would not assume, it's got to be more than 26.
Well, what are the
he's looking
49ers
for more.
asking for in return?
We don't know that right now in terms of
Do they
draft
want player,
pick.
draft pick?
They definitely want a player involved.
Who?
Not specific to receiver. They're
Okay.
open to other positions. They prefer a receiver. That is very clear. They are. Or let me be clear about that. They prefer a receiver in return, but they're definitely open to other positions if a trade were to happen.
Like defense, offense, like what?
Defense or offense. Defense or offense.
Just a
They're
player to
discussing that.
Because if you're parting with a guy who you offer to pay $26 million, now you have a $26 million void that you can pay a star guy. So do they want like a star player back in return? Because they're losing a star player, in my opinion.
Correct. They ideally would want a premier player.
Wow.
In return for him. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers be willing to give that up? Would the Cleveland Browns be willing to give that up? These are the questions we're trying to find out as we're waiting to see which one of these teams is willing to go all in to get Aiyuk on their team. Otherwise, this thing may get drawn out a bit. And I did have someone in the league share with me earlier today. The Steelers may just sit back on this here and not rush it so they can put the pressure on San Francisco, who'd be sitting in a pretty awkward position, and kind of wearing them down and get a trade done that would work to their advantage, because the timing would work out as they get closer to the season. Kind of what you were mentioning about how they may just throw their hands up and be like, all right, enough of this. Let's just move him. This is a distraction. This is all anyone's talking about. So now we're at a point where...
Sorry, I want to jump in because before we move, because I want to get into... You said Pittsburgh, what Pittsburgh would look like and what Cleveland would look like with Brandon Aiyuk, the receiver. I want to go backwards because we sort of not glossed over, but the New England situation. You're telling me they offered him $32 million to go there, and they had trade compensation figured out. Brandon Aiyuk said, nope, not going there. This is the third receiver for New England that they've missed out on in the past 2 years. Why don't guys want to go to New England? Was it the Belichick thing? Was it the quarterback play? Was it just the media portrayal? I don't get it. They can't get a star receiver there, and they need help desperately.
They do. And I do believe that all the situations are different. I can speak to the Aiyuk situation, and that was just the lack of confidence at quarterback. He didn't believe that they're set up for success right now. Think about how hard that has to be for him to walk away from a team that is probably going to go back to the Super Bowl again. To say, you know what, when you have to figure there's probably a lot of players who would have signed with New England to make that personal investment to get the big payday. But for him, he wants both. And it's obvious what he's looking for here, which is a team that can compete over him making the most amount of money. Now, you look at the receiver situation for New England in general, and until they figure out the quarterback position, this may be a problem for the future.
Yeah.
They better hope that
Drake
May is a guy that can play and lead his team, because, like you said, this is going to be an issue they're not going to be able to move away from. So when I talk about the Cleveland Browns, so I was with them the other day, as I mentioned, and I tried to get as much as I could from everyone I was talking to in the sidelines. I got a big nothing from them. It happens. It's like the life of an insider. Yeah, you just got to be like, I just talked to this person for 40 minutes, and I'm walking away with absolutely nothing. But that's okay. But I still do talk to people there over the phone, and I'm curious just from your perspective, looking at this offense that I do think is built really well. Jerry Jeudy looks awesome, by the way. Yeah. What do the Cleveland Browns look like with Brandon Aiyuk?
I mean, a potential Super Bowl contender. I'm going to be honest. Like, look, you got Amari Cooper, you got Jerry Jeudy, and you get Brandon Aiyuk. Like, I don't know. I mean, in my opinion, if you're saying they want a star player back, are they going to send Amari Cooper packing? They just signed Jerry Jeudy to a really good deal this past offseason, which I think above market value for Jeudy, purely based on his film. So Cleveland, to me, look, we can talk about days and days and days of their run offense, about Kevin Stefanski, about how well they scheme up things, about how genius of a play caller Stefanski is, which I personally do think the scheme is awesome, but it's a ground and pound. You saw what they were able to do last year with Flacco. Dianna, it's going to come down to the quarterback play. The Cleveland Browns can go a long way. If Deshaun Watson doesn't get back to 2020, 2021, Deshaun Watson, they don't have a chance. Like, I'm sorry about it. So in my opinion, it all comes down to your quarterback play. And honestly, it almost puts more pressure on Deshaun Watson to bring another stud receiver into the mix. And you have Brandon Aiyuk at X receiver. You have Amari Cooper at Z. You have Jerry Jeudy in the slot. You have Njoku. You got all these running backs. And if they don't perform, it's on Deshaun Watson. So if I'm Deshaun Watson, I'm like, maybe like this, we don't really need him too much. Like, it's a weird take, but like that's sort of what it's going to feel like, because this is a very, very important year specifically for Deshaun Watson.
Very much so, right? It hasn't been the best start for him. He's finally close to being healthy. At least he's called healthy. He's out there. I saw him. He actually had a really good practice when I was there. But I think the problem with the Deshaun Watson is there's too many question marks still, and he has to answer them. And You're right. If you add these weapons, the pressure continues to mount as everybody wants to see the Deshaun we saw in Houston. So that's the Cleveland situation. We'll see if Andrew Berry will come up with a package that makes sense, and if there's a contract number, if there's a deal he's willing to give Aiyuk, if he would choose Cleveland. But let's talk about Pittsburgh specifically with Aiyuk in the mix. And I would be a lunatic if I said, let's talk about Russell Wilson as the starter, but I know you'd lose your mind. So let's in the pretend Chase world, in the dreams of Chase, if Justin were to win this position and he is the starter, we'll just say week 1, how does he help Justin Fields?
Well, I mean, I think he adds a legitimate threat for Justin Fields to throw the football to. I mean, that's the obvious answer, along with George Pickens, along with Van Jefferson, who I think will have a better year than some people think. And then you look at that backfield with Justin Fields, Najee Harris, and Jaylen Warren. Like, they're adding some major playmakers. They lost some important pieces, and they're sort of starting from scratch on that offensive side of the football. But when Brandon Aiyuk comes over, he is a bona fide number 1 receiver. He would be the stud in Pittsburgh. I also think it's really good for George Pickens, who now will get more one-on-one matchups, can do his thing on go balls, these jump balls that he's so well at, use them more in the slot. I think if you're in fantasy, which I've never really played fantasy in my entire life, fun fact about me, I've never been into it. But if you're in fantasy and the Brandon Aiyuk trade happens to Pittsburgh, like, I am picking George Pickens. That who, in my opinion, is going to be the winner of this trade. But also, it just gives Justin Fields like a guy who can move everywhere in Brandon Aiyuk. You can put him in the slot. You can put him in motion. You can put him at the X receiver. You can put him at the Z receiver. Huge red zone threat. Big, tall guy. Really good at releases. I just think it helps that offense.
Well, to wrap up this conversation, at this point right now, everything seems to be moving in the direction of the Pittsburgh Steelers, but all of this can just change. Yeah. It's just how it works. And I think the fluidity of the situation is so frustrating for fans. I do feel for them when I see them on Twitter. Everybody wants information. They want the latest, and they just want this to be done, especially fans in Pittsburgh that are all over Twitter right now talking about it because they want to know if
I tweeted about it, about Pittsburgh. I'm like, they need to go.
You tweet about everything.
Not everything.
Well, I hope that you're going to be tweeting plenty about DeMeco Ryans because he's going to join the show next. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Scoop City. Chase, I've always thought you have a really nice smile, but DeMeco Ryans blows yours out of the water. You can see his smile from across the field. He may be one of the happiest head coaches I've ever been around. He just enjoys doing this job. And it was so great to be able to sit with him. I've never spent any time with him. A couple quick little conversations at the combine, a couple games here and there, but to be able to just understand why so many people like him. General Manager Nick Caserio once shared with me just the type of leader DeMeco has been since he joined the Texans. And I really felt our conversation. I was able to get to hear and see the things that everyone has been talking about. So let's take a listen to my sit down with DeMeco Ryans. All right, so Coach, one of the most common things people tell me about you is that you are this high energy, highly caffeinated human being. So I want to know your secret to just having so much energy every single day.
I truly believe in positive energy and how others feed off of that. So every day, every meeting, it's great morning. Like I'm coming in loud, full of energy, just so our guys can feel that energy, especially during a time like this in camp when everybody's can be dragging around and feeling sorry for themselves, the long days. It's like, man, let's go. Great day. Let's have a great day. Let's have some fun out here.
How many times a day do you think you're saying great morning, great day, great morning, great day?
At least 100.
Yeah. But what if someone's not having, like, life is not easy.
Right.
Not every day is great. So how are you making sure that, A, your day is great, but you're reminding them that this is a blessing to do this?
Yeah, for sure. And I make sure that there's a balance. Like sometimes I can see a guy, right, and see his face and how he's looking, and maybe take a time to pull him to the side, right, talk to a guy, hey, make sure, truly, genuinely ask, like, hey, are you really okay? Like, how's things going outside of football? Because I realize, like, for our players and being in this profession, like, there's a lot of pressure with what we do, but we also have real life outside of this. Like, you got family issue. We have the same issues as everyone else. So I never lose sight of that. Like, these guys are real men. They have real issues. So I genuinely ask them how they're doing and care for them.
Yeah, everyone's got stuff, right? Everyone's got challenges. It's not just trying to make a team or be the best at their position. How have you, since last season, so now you're going into your second year as a head coach, how do you think you've changed as a leader or adjusted some of the ways that you've been running this team since when you took this job?
Yeah, I think second year around is definitely more comfortable. So it's not a lot of unknowns going into the second year. So I'm more comfortable with just, for me, I think I want to do a better job of coaching the coaches, like, and making sure I spend time encouraging the coaches and pouring into them more this time around. My first years is all about the players, getting the team right, and I probably neglected the coaching staff a little bit. So it's more of motivating, encouraging them as teachers, like how to help them best teach guys, encourage, and motivate guys.
Did you ever think when you were a player for the Texans that you would one day become the head coach? Have you ever stopped to be like, this is pretty unique?
I never thought. As playing, I'm just in my player mode and just trying to do my best. I never thought that I would be head coach of any team, but then to come back as head coach of the Houston Texans, like I wouldn't have wanted it anywhere else. Like, this just means more. It's special. It's a unique bond of former players who are my teammates, like being able to see those guys around, seeing Andre Johnson going to the Hall of Fame, a former teammate for 6 years. It's like being the head coach of the Houston Texans. This was the perfect job for me.
You became captain when you were a player real quick. And the leadership qualities about you have followed you all the way through your playing career and now as a coach. Why do people think you're such a good leader, and why do you think you're such a good leader?
Well, I think people first think I'm a good leader because I serve first and foremost. Like, I never look at the leadership role as, I'm the big guy and everybody has to listen to what Miko says. Like, it's never like that. I'm always of the mindset of, how can I be of service to you? How can I be of service to our players, to our support staff? Like, I'm a part of it, right? And I'm a part of the team. And as a leader, I think people feel that from me, that I genuinely care and that I want the best for everyone, right? And I think people see that, and also by how I move and how I handle myself and how I carry myself, I try to do exactly what I'm asking others to do. Are you getting better every day, right? Are you giving your best? Are you constantly thinking about how you can improve? And I do those things, so it's not just me telling someone, it's not just lip service, like, I act it out as well.
You're living this.
Yes.
And in that same sentiment of not just talking it, but doing it, it's what I've been hearing a lot of your players say about CJ as a quarterback. He knows he's good. He's got that confidence, he's got that flair, he has a presence about him, but he's able to be that way because he talks about it, but he also shows it and is productive, not only on the field, but in the meeting rooms. What type of leader are you seeing in CJ here in his second year?
I'm seeing a guy who's more vocal this second time around, I think, and he's more vocal because he's more confident of his job and his role and what he has to do. He knows the offense. He can command the offense. Now I see a guy he's probably our most competitive guy on the team, whether it's shooting hoops or playing video games on the field. Like, he wants the best for everyone, and everybody feels that competitive nature come out in him. And he's leading that way. Guys see how important it is to him. Every rep is important to him, and it's important for him to see others do well. And when your quarterback is that way, it's easy to lead the team because no one wants to let him down. They know how special of a guy he is. They know how special of a talent he is. You can't help but pull for the guy. You can't help but dig a little deeper and play your hardest for him.
When you're seeing CJ get so much attention right now because he is on the map and everyone knows that he has the potential to be one of the greats to play this position, how have you been managing him as a coach and as a guy to make sure that the details aren't getting missed and all of this is distracting from what you guys are trying to get done?
Right. Now, it's a fine line of with your quarterback, right? It's reeling him in from first off, he's a football junkie. So he's looking at all these plays, other teams are running like, hey, we can do this, we can do that. It's like, okay, I love your ideas and love what you're bringing to the table. I love that you're thinking about that, but let's also not like the basics, fundamentals of the game. Like, you have to master those, and that's what the best quarterbacks in this league. So I tell them, like Brady, Manning, like, they mastered the fundamentals. It wasn't always about the big play. It was about taking what the defense gave them, being in the right call, getting the offense in the right call, and making the right reads. And it was just over and over and over again. It's getting bored with the consistency of the position, right? And not getting too caught up in the wow plays, but make those simple plays that you allow your playmakers around you to turn into big plays.
Yeah, it's that mundane, right?
Yes.
That's what separates the really good guys from the great, being almost comfortable, being a little bored with taking care of those details that you speak about. In terms of the addition of Stefon Diggs here in the offseason and just all the weapons that you guys have been able to build around CJ, it's a young receiver room. And I spoke to Stefon on Monday just about his role. And Miko, he is leaning into the leadership thing. You know, this is a guy who was really open about wanting to help raise the level of play in these young guys. What have you been seeing from him since he's become this big addition?
I love Diggs. I talk about CJ being competitive, but Diggs is like, he cares so much about like winning. He cares so much about being good, like, and he cares so much about his teammates and making sure everybody is playing their best. Like, the energy that you talk about me with energy, the energy that he brings to practice every day.
Because he's vocal, he's chirping out there, he's coaching the guys up on the sideline. I'm watching him.
He's doing it all, and I love that. And it's all positive, it's all upbeat, it's all encouraging. It's like, man, who wouldn't want this guy on our team? Like, I'm so thankful and blessed that we were able to acquire him. He was able to come to our team because I think his leadership level is just off the charts. He's off the charts as a leader, off the charts as a player, and a person. Like, he's a fun guy to be around. He loves football.
He told me the goal is to be captain. Yeah. He said that his goal is to be the captain of this team. He's like, if they decided, so I can't.
He's well on his way.
He's on his way. And I think when you guys traded for him, a lot of the noise outside of Houston was, ooh, they're building something great there. Do they want to add a player who has been seen in Minnesota and in Buffalo as a problem at times? How are you guys planning to handle that if that becomes an issue during the season?
I don't have to worry about that. And for me, I never had issues with players when it comes to that. I think for me, it's how you treat players and understand and getting to know the player. Everything that I've seen from Steph is no issues at all. It's a guy who loves football. I want 90 guys who love football on our team. So I'm pointing to Steph like, I want to see more guys with more urgency and more energy about themselves like Steph is. So everything will be great with him. I'm not worried about Steph one bit.
Watching you coach last year as an obviously defensive-minded coach, and by the way, Steph wanted to make it a point that I said He says he's not a defensive-minded head coach, but he is. At the end of the day, you're always thinking defense. So using that to your advantage, though, that you do have that defensive mind, how are you helping this offense evolve and continue to help CJ grow?
See, I told Steph, I told him in the huddle a couple of days ago, I was like, I want to see the scoreboard lighten up, like as many points as we can score. I'm not a defensive coach. I want to see the scoreboard lit up. So they all laughed about it, of course. And then I tell the refs, make sure they call it in favor of the defense. But we have fun with it. I think in our team meetings, everything we do, it's about me just coaching everybody and showing just a style of play for the Houston Texans. And whether it's offense, defense, special teams, I want everybody to see there's a certain style when you put on our tape, like it has to look different, like with how we're finishing, how fast we're playing, how physical we're playing. All three phases, if we play that way and exhibit Texan football, I think everybody will see I'm the head coach of the Houston Texans and not just defense.
What's it like to be the head coach of a team that everyone's coming after now?
Yeah, I love it. Well, I mean, why wouldn't you wouldn't want it any other way, right? You want to, first off, you have always, for me, every time I lined up, every time I've coached, like I've never not lined up having high expectations for our team and what we're about, because I know the preparation that we put in, right? And I always anticipate other teams giving us their best. So, I mean, guys are up for the challenge. We understand what it is. That's every week in the league. Like, it doesn't change. I know it's a lot more noise on the outside from, fans and other people, being hyped up about the Texans. But, I mean, we're excited and we're hyped internally as well, and we have high expectations for ourselves.
So this podcast is called Scoop City, and the goal is to have people come on the show and give us all the secrets of the team. And I've gotten nothing out of you, so, so give me the scoop.
What's the scoop?
What's the scoop? So my last question for you about getting the scoop is, we talk about your high energy. You're a father of 4 between the ages of 10 all the way down to 6 months. The scoop, give parents some advice on how you're dealing with a high-pressure job that you're in while also having to be dad at home.
Ooh. First off, I'm thankful to my wife, Jamila, for holding the house down. So when I come home, right, from all the work, the long hours, when I come home, I just know once I hit that garage, like, hey, football is done. It's dad time. And I make sure I pour into them, and they're getting all of my attention. Throw the cell phone to the side, like they're getting all of my attention. So we're outside, we're shooting hoops, we're riding bikes. Like, I just want them to see me as dad, not the football coach, just see me as dad and know that I love them, I care for them, and I want them to know we're going to have fun, just like we have a lot of fun out here on the football field.
Coming full circle here on the energy thing. So really, all the energy is going to the guys, and then you have to almost hit a second wind here. Are you a big coffee drinker? Like, what are you doing to keep this energy up?
Little coffee in the morning, not a big coffee drink. I have probably a cup or 2 every day. Sometimes I may need a little espresso before I go home.
Yeah, I think
that's. Sure that
is the key to late night parenting. Is after work, get one more shot. Most people are done with their coffee by afternoon. Sometimes you got to dig deep just to bring it in all together. So, Coach, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate your time, and thanks for hanging out in Scoop City.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you to DeMeco Ryans for doing that with us. Chase, I had to ask him about the concerns about trading for Stefon Diggs, only because we've seen some of the problems that he had in Minnesota, that he had in Buffalo. And I'm not talking about problems that completely destroy a locker room, but there's just drama, right? So this is a team that's trying to build. They've got a young superstar quarterback, a first-year head coach last year. For Nick Caserio to make this decision that this is the best move for this team, they had to feel good that he brings enough talent and leadership for them to make the trade, pull it off, and have him join this team. And it seems that so far things are great.
Well, it's second, third week into training camp, Diana. So, look, his I don't want to say problems, but his stuff is going to follow him around. And look, I am all for people changing, and it's not like huge problems with this guy. He's not like some problem to do. He's competitive. He's high energy. He wants the football. He wants to help you win. But it is good to see that the Houston Texans got him on a 1-year deal, right? And so the most interesting thing, first of all, the interview was awesome. Sorry I was not there. The most interesting thing to me in the entire interview was when you mentioned your conversation with Diggs on the side about Diggs wanting to be a captain. Okay, like first year guy, like leadership is a word that you guys threw out quite a bit, including DeMeco. What was your sense of that with your conversation specifically with Stefon Diggs on why he felt like this was a new beginning for him?
First of all, you talk about his smile when he said, I love Diggs. Like, you know, when people say something and you feel it, like I just felt it when he said it, you know? And look, a lot of that has to do with the fact that when you watch practice, Stefon Diggs is clearly their WR1. Like, he's so good. But I just think that they have been impressed with his ability to lead that young receiver room and the way he's become a mentor to all of them. They're competitive, but not competitive with each other to hurt the other. They have this strong bond, and, you know, they're very professional as a receiver room. So I think he's brought his experience, good and bad, to this team that I think can be good. And I think that's how DeMeco sees it. So look, we'll see how it pans out. And I know there's always those concerns. What's he going to do when he doesn't get the ball? But you heard DeMeco when he said that's not going to happen here, essentially, you know, because DeMeco runs this team. And I think the fact that he's a former player carries so much weight with these guys.
It's huge. It makes all the difference in the world.
Correct. And you can't pull off some of the things that maybe you think you can get away with coaches that have never played and played at a high level. So this is a team that is building something special, and I really can't wait to see them this season and continue to see the growth of CJ Stroud, because as we said last show, he's fire!
Fire!
Our new segment, Chase is on the case. Thank you to Paw Patrol for giving me the idea here. Speaking of, what's your kid's favorite show?
Oh my gosh. Like, we have almost 7-year-old, 4.5-year-old, 3-year-old. I mean, they're all over the place. Honestly, like, probably Paw Patrol. I'm not kidding. That or Bluey. The first movie we ever took our oldest and our middle to was the first Paw Patrol movie, and they freaked out and got on a huge Paw Patrol kick. They actually sat still in the movie theater. You know, we had gave them some candy and popcorn, so that helped. But it was like the first movie, and my wife and I were like, yes, challenge unlocked. And they actually sat still. And my son still loves Paw Patrol to this day.
That's great, because I always feel like kids just go through these phases. Like, we were in a Moana phase, we were in a Bluey phase for a little bit, and now it's just Paw Patrol all day, all night. And, you know, we have every little toy to entertain them with it. But the other thing my kids watch, and tell me if this is something your children do. So we go to YouTube, which I think a lot of parents use YouTube Kids as a way to entertain screen time and get through things during the day. They like to watch other children playing with toys. Do your kids do this?
Creepy. Never.
It's so weird.
No.
It's my sons. I
don't like that.
Love it. They're glued to the screen. So we've been trying to stay away from it because we're so creeped out by them being like, why would you enjoy that? Like, don't you?
Why would you? Well, first of all, if you're a parent, why would you film your kids playing with toys and put it on the internet? Not a fan of
because they have an audience. Apparently, Joey and Mikey, they live for it.
Joey and Mikey,
they're all about it. But the best is, like, they have the screen in front of them. Like, guys, you have the same toy that kid is playing with. It's right here. So who knows? But we're in the Paw Patrol phase. We'll see how long that lasts. So speaking of Paw Patrol, let's get Chase on the case with this. So, which rookie quarterback will be the most hyped about coming out of the preseason? Get on the case.
Overreaction Friday. Look, it's the first weekend. You know, listen, we're a football podcast. We like to have fun. This is the first weekend that we're going to get to react to some games. Right? There was a game last night. There's a game tonight. There's a game Saturday. There's a game Sunday. And now on until February 8th. And we end in New Orleans for Super Bowl. So you better believe I'm going to be breaking down some of this stuff on this podcast. I think for me, I always go back to, Dianna, and it was in your Scoop City newsletter that came out yesterday, was Dak Prescott in 2016. If you remember, I do. I was a Philly. he was the talk of the town, not only because he was a Dallas Cowboys quarterback that was playing really well. He played so well in the preseason. Tony Romo was hurt, didn't really play. And he played so well that this 4th-round pick ended up starting and is about to be the first $60 million quarterback. So you better believe I'm going to overreact to stuff that is happening on the field in preseason. And oh, by the way, as a resident undrafted backup quarterback for 14 years, the preseason was our Super Bowl, Dianna. It was our Super Bowl. It was, everything was on the line. Show me the money. How are you getting to your next deal? And that's it. So I got 2 guys I'm going to talk about today. Number 1, Jayden Daniels. I think that Jayden Daniels has a chance to be really special, not only from the aspect of a thrower and a runner, but as a leader. And when I hear people talk about this guy, and when I watch him on his film at LSU, I'm just so excited to see what he's going to do in an NFL offense. And not only an NFL offense, but a Cliff Kingsbury offense, which if you look at Kyler in his Arizona days and you go back to Texas Tech days with Cliff Kingsbury, he was an excellent play caller. So he's going to have some stuff up his sleeves for Jayden to show. And obviously, let me just paint the picture for all you listeners out there and you viewers. Preseason is very bland. When I say bland, that means these offensive coordinators calling games, it is day one install. It is the same stuff over and over and over. So you actually get to see these young rookie quarterbacks operate in something that they know, and they know this offense inside and out. They're not going to put stuff in preseason that they're going to have in regular season. So if your offense stinks or sucks or whatever word you want to use in the preseason, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be that way in the season. So Jayden Daniels is my number 1. My number 2.
Well, I wanted to just add before you get to number 2.
Yes,
I was with Zach Ertz on Thursday at practice. And I spoke with Jayden too about just the change of going from college to the NFL. And, we just discussed the process of how, just how fast it can be.
Yeah.
But he obviously seems very ready for all of
How's
that.
he handling it?
He says it's a process, right? Like he didn't give me the answer of I'm ready right now, because that would be a lie, right? Everyone knows that it's going to take some time. Totally. But that being said, Zach Ertz, I was like, man, Jayden's really good. I said, Jayden's going to be really good. He said, no, Jayden is good, right? So the fact that, a veteran like Zach Ertz is sharing that the rookie's already good, that means in practice he's probably been doing some really good stuff.
Or that Zach Ertz just wants some targets.
There's some butt kissing. Yeah. Zach, we see you.
Yeah, I know Zach. He's a good dude. So, second, J.J. McCarthy, Minnesota Vikings, sort of in a quarterback battle right now between Sam Darnold and J.J. McCarthy to see who is going to be the QB1 for Minnesota. Kevin O'Connell gets to flex his muscle. Jordan Jefferson, all these guys. He's going to have some weapons, whoever it is. But specifically for J.J. McCarthy, because he's an interesting dude to me, Dianna. And the reason he's interesting is because he didn't really play a lot in college. He played in a pro-style scheme under Harbaugh at Michigan, but he didn't have a lot of snaps. And so everyone wants to talk about, oh, this guy is going to be the best, or this guy's going to be the best. For JJ, it's all about getting experience. How do you get experience? You play in preseason games. You learn from your mess-ups. You learn from your mistakes. And I think that's something that you're going to see this preseason. JJ's going to make some mistakes, but maybe preseason game 3, he plays a half, and he gets to understand the flow of the game. He gets to hear in the first play of the earpiece in the quarterback's helmet. That's something new for all these rookie quarterbacks. When an offensive coordinator is on the sideline, they're I can't talk.
Radioing. Wait, no, that's a hard one. Wait, radioing.
How do you say it?
Calling in.
They're calling in plays from the sideline, and all these college cats, they have like signals and like hats and boards, and it's completely different. So it'll be interesting to see all the little subtle nuances of playing in an actual NFL game. Oh, by the way, you got to think of all these things, Diana. And there is a play clock, delay of game on the offense, 5-yard penalty. There's going to be some of those. There's going to be some lessons to learn, but I got Jayden Daniels and J.J. McCarthy.
You know what I've always wanted to know? When the offensive coordinator is giving you the play call in your ear, are they also giving you the situation before they call the play?
I hope not. I mean,
Why,
some rookie,
what do you mean I hope not?
because you got so much to think about. Like maybe on third down, hey, 3rd and 5 here, that's it. Like I've never had a guy, because I've never had a coach do that. Honestly, they want you to focus on the present. I mean, they might give cheat codes. There's honestly not enough time. They're going to say the play call twice.
I would
well,
want it. How many
just
times
too
have we
much
seen?
information.
It is. Well, look, you're someone who was in a Sean Payton offense, right? I can only imagine the verbiage in that. I would pass out listening to him call plays. But I would think that quarterbacks would like reminders in situations because it is moving so fast. But and I've heard of that before. I've heard that sometimes happens, but obviously not in the stops along the way for Chase Daniel. Well, Chase, you were on the case. We are not going to overreact, but wink, wink. Yes, we will. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us here on Scoop City. If you want some more scoops, make sure you check out our Scoop City newsletter. All you got to do is subscribe. It's free. And don't forget, the show is also on YouTube. A lot of people don't realize that, but you can watch the show. And we've been getting some feedback. Sometimes it's a little bit different, and you can see my little Chase toy for the next time we do Chase is on the case. So thanks so much for hanging out with Scoop City. We are going to have Cliff Kingsbury on the show next week. Big time. We will see you guys next time.
Bye, guys. Tag me next time.
Thanks for tuning into Scoop City. If you want to hear more, make sure you like and subscribe. We drop our new episodes every Tuesday and Friday.